Hello, folks. It's George Leoniak, and welcome to New Geometry. Today, we're going to talk all about drawing pentagons, and I'm going to show you at least 12 pentagons drawn in the golden circle seed of life, which is just a phenomenal pattern. It takes the seed of life, creating hexagon geometry, and infusing the pentagon in it all throughout. So this is going to be a really interesting video. So let's jump into the screen share and just talk a little bit about the backdrop of this journey of studying the Pentagon. One of my first videos, this is a drawing video that is on my YouTube channel that is about a 20-minute video, as above, so below method of drawing the mirrored double pentagons birthed from the mother of creation, the double vesicas. I did this video last September 30th as a tribute to my mom. And I think it's a really neat technique. What I loved about it so much was that it worked with just the regular vesica that we're so familiar, the vesica Pisces in the middle, and that it gave the vertices with these phi ratio circles to get the precise points to create these double mirrored pentagons. So this is just a little prelude. We're going to revisit this drawing at the end. When I created this drawing, I didn't know about the golden circle seed of life at that point. That came about shortly after I did that construction that I just showed previously. And the method here is over to the left here, which you can pause the video and see how you can create this with the golden circles to get that first golden circle. And then you can populate the rest of the circles and put the smaller circles in the middle to create the full pattern of the golden circles seed of life, the 21 circles. So I really love this pattern. As you may have seen in many of my other videos, I spent a lot of time constructing the first pentagon that I created in this, with the pentagram in the middle, was this one here, which was very simple to create. It was just already connected to the intersection points that the circles were overlapping. And I was blown away how easy it was to construct that pentagon straight at the center of the diagram of this seed of life pattern. To me, it really felt like it infused the life right into the golden circle pattern, or into the seed of life, that is. And this will be shown as a close-up towards the end of the video here when I show the rest of the 12 constructions that were in this. Now, I also have this one here, which is this light blue dotted lines here that you see, very light for you probably. That's an icosahedron, and as you know, I love to, or if you're new to this channel, I love to working with the polyhedra and constructing the 2D drawings of these amazing 3D geometric models. And what had to happen within this to create a correct version drawing of the icosahedron is that this pentagon that we're normally looking at as a flat pentagon had to orient and be angled and tilted to show that it would maintain phi proportion within the structure of the 3D geometry. And so all these edges that you see as you create the star are all phi proportion within that star. So that was really a revolutionary that opened up a lot of doorways to construct all the platonic solids, particularly the dodecahedron and the icosahedron with phi ratio. Many videos on that. I'm not even going to show a polyhedra in this. But by doing that, it opened up the stellations and many other forms that could be created through that correction in this template. Now, somewhere along the way, probably a couple months ago, other geometers out there, Marshall Lefters and Robert Grant, saw this construction method, and they tested this out, the first pentagon that I showed. And this is, obviously, to me, I already knew this was 108-degree interior angles of this. And really, this was just one of a whole multitude of pentagons that can be found in this. So this was really like a golden key. It really was not about just the one pentagon in the middle of this. Although that was quite fascinating that could happen, there was so much more that this pattern could present. All we need to do is just start to look a little deeper into what these circles contain. Well, this about a week and a half ago or so, this was one of the other amazing discoveries, that there's a drawing out there that's quite well represented by Albrecht Durer from the Renaissance period, German painter and amateur mathematician, did so much with geometry and created so many fascinating drawings of geometry. Well, this was his construction of the hexagon and pentagon union, with really just using the same size circle built out of, you could create a seed of life around this and construct the rest of the circles. And about last year, around this time, I discovered, well, it's not giving us an accurate pentagon at the top because the top angle is 109.2. Everything should be 108 within a pentagon, 107, 108.4. So this diagram is often used to talk about this merger between the hexagon and the pentagon, more of the pentagon about the life and the phi ratio that's within life, and the hexagon being much more about that structure and stability and storage. And this sharing the same edge was like the merger of those two in a unified, connected way. Of course, this is related to the buckyball, carbon-60, another component of life. So anyway, I realized that this circle pattern here allowed me to build the pentagon off of the golden circle seed of life with that central hexagon. And by just extending the lines and connecting them to outer circles, I was able to construct the pentagon and the star in the middle, and also show how the golden circle pattern is actually connected to the pentagon that is created from that edge that we see here. So these circles seamlessly overlap and integrate with one another. And to me, it really showed that the golden circle pattern, starting how it came to me within the hexagon, is intimately connected to the golden circles that are created from the pentagon. Now, if you study this drawing closely, you'll see that the inner circle actually connects to the smaller pentagon on the inside, as the larger one comes around and connects to the outer pentagon. So those 5 circles, which integrate with the 2 circles here, blend back into the 6. So this is a very unified drawing that integrates the phi ratio throughout 5 to 6, which I think is just fabulous and a major upgrade to this. I think Albrecht Durer did a fantastic job with the tools he had at the time to construct this. Maybe he was not certain that whether this was a 109.2 angle or not. And I think maybe what he was trying to do there was just do it so you use the same size circle and not adjust your compass. But there's so much more that can happen when we adjust our compass and don't just get stuck into a one circle size fits all. So next thing, let's just take a quicker look at this golden circle pattern. Now, this is a video that I just, from a few slides from a video I put out recently that talks about the whole golden circle template is actually creating the forms of the platonic solids just by cutting out these overlapping petals of where the seed of life petal intersects the golden ratio petals that intersect around this point. That actually turned out to be, when you connect the dots, a Penrose tile. And a Penrose tile has a 108-degree angle and a 72-degree angle at the top, as shown over here. And in fact, the golden circle seed of life gives you the 144-degree angle that you need. So your Penrose tile basically would be this upper kite shape, what do they call it? Dart, the upper dart shape, the 72, 144 to 108 over here. 36, and then the lower part, which is the kite shape. So this whole seed of life pattern, the golden circle seed of life, gives you Penrose tiles all throughout it. And that was totally fascinating to me because this is a pattern that can infinitely put together between these darts and kites that will go on and on forever. But here what we're doing is, and never repeat. That's the point. It will never repeat. This little pattern of stars and whatnot will never repeat as you extend this out infinitely. But here what we've done, or at least what the golden circles have done, is take those Penrose tiles and layer them into a hexagonal structure. And just some amazing patterns can start to be created by looking at those kite shapes, or the diamond shapes, of those Penrose tiles. And you can start to link them up this way. But what happens is when you start to overlay them, they create this little triangular overlapping shape in the middle where the edges of those Penrose tiles are going to actually sit on top of one another. So they're not actually abutting anymore. But that's just how it fitted into the pattern. But what that means basically is if we have a 108-degree angle at the top of each of these, each one of these are actually pentagons all intersected. So this diagram is just probably the most, this golden circle seed of life is probably the most integrated relationship beyond just putting one pentagon on top of the hexagon. This whole thing is just full of pentagon, life infused at pentagons at so many different angles within this. It is mind-boggling how much interaction there is between the 5 and 6. It's probably the most unified drawing I've ever seen of the 5 to 6 relationship that really puts the chaos of phi and life into this hexagonal matrix. So I'm finally at the point where I'm going to go through the 12 pentagons that I created all in one day, probably within about 2 hours. Because once you just see how they work out, you could just start doing the connect the dot game and figure out where new pentagons might pop up. And all of these, I set up a kind of certain criteria that I was working with was really, I wanted to make sure that all the points would be easily found at either the circle intersection or line intersection. I avoided trying to kind of find missing points because you can create larger pentagons or smaller pentagons around this. So these were the easiest ones to create, but there's so many more in here that you just have to add extra circles or other lines to kind of fill in to connect the points. So they're all different sizes and they can be drawn multiple times within this. So just one pentagon does not mean it's the only way it can be viewed. I can draw a mirror one on the other side. I could draw it in 6-fold symmetry. All these basically could be in the 12 directions here that we have represented. So this was the first one. For these drawings, what I've done is I've oriented that golden circle seed of life so that the main flower petal here is shifted 30 degrees. And normally we see this pointed up, but for this, the drawings were done in this context. Okay, well, that was the first one. So, once you understand how to draw the golden circle seed of life, which I show in the slide at the very second slide in this presentation, I show how to do it with a video on my Patreon, and some other videos within here show you the steps and techniques, how to do that. And of course, in my apprenticeship, we do this quite a lot. But here are the circle intersections that are already given within the diagram. So really, you don't have to add any additional lines other than the initial layout to just draw in the pentagon at these particular spots. And that's just one pentagon of many within this. The second one that came up, now I could have done a pentagon within this, and we would get another one by creating the star, but I didn't see that it met the criteria of hitting any overlapping points in there, so I didn't really count that one in there. Because you have the infinite fractality of creating pentagons and pentagons within and over again within the stars within each of these. Some of these I did do that. This one will be like that. But here was another one that was easily given by the points that are part of that Penrose tile, right? So if I connected down to this little overlapping little vesica shapes, the little petals overlapping, that would be our Penrose tile. But this one, I'm going to create it into a pentagon and then just come down to these points that are the two circles overlapping, and bingo, we have our next pentagon within the golden circle seed of life. Now this one I was able to find a smaller pentagon within there that did connect to the bottom of that Penrose tile. And that included these 2 points across this petal. And in order to get these other point right here, which was on that circle, all I had to do was just kind of extend these lines across, and that would give me the intersection point. So it's sort of like the star, but I wanted to show the petal individually. So I would suggest if you even photocopied one version of this over and over again once you did the initial drawing, to have fun. You could do one once a month. We have one for each month of the year to do one of these drawings. And because you've done it here, you can do a mirror one over here, and then you can have a little ring of pentagons around this if you want. And because it's here, it's also over here if you extend the pattern out. My gosh, with this little pentagon, you could fill this whole drawing with these tiny little pentagons all over the place. I would love to see creative examples of this. So we have so many possibilities of more mirrored pentagons. Same thing here. So we have this one. What I do with a lot of my drawings to find these missing points is I find the anchor point of where the pentagon might be and realize that you can extend this line from this point all the way through to this section where it is overlapping the large circle and the medium circle, and that will give you the angle you need to hit the center line, and that gives you this point, which didn't have a circle or anything to help you find it. So really, they're like almost like constellations in the stars almost. When I look at some of these diagrams, it's like you find these outer points, you connect the dots, and now you have, each of them have a kind of unique feel. And I imagine if you really get into this, you can kind of find your own in this that I hadn't even discovered yet. Here was another one. So this was actually the inner pentagon of this one that would have, if I created a star within that one, you see I'm using the same points. As I extend the lines around, they were able to intersect at key points on the lines as well as intersecting the circles. I needed these two X marks here to locate these outer points exactly at that position. So, okay, that was another one. Some of these are a little bit more complicated than others. You can zoom in on that to get a better sense of where it was. This was a rather easy one to do, a bigger pentagon. It was based off the bottom tips of these two petals that came up to the intersection of the circle, the two circles here, the medium and the larger circle. And then all I had to do was just extend this up, connecting to the center point of the circle until it met the center line again, and then I could find the top edge of the pentagon. So really, it was kind of like a mystery of little puzzles, pentagons. And this one I did the inner star, of course, to find the meeting points. Here I had to use this point to go through the line and connect. Now this is really, I mean, this is just a really fascinating study to me because, before I started doing these pentagons, there was really only maybe 2 or 3 other methods that I knew of that created a pentagon. One that was in John Allen's book, one that was in an old book that I have that references how to construct a perfect pentagon. And then Robert Edward Grant has a method that, I don't know, he said it was the first novel method, but I knew of other methods to be able to draw the pentagons. So we had his method, then we had the one he showed that mine was accurate. So I had about 4 methods. I had the one at the top here, the as above, so below method. So I had about 5 methods that I knew of, and now I just have 12 more that we're adding into this, or 11 more that were added into this. So really, really amazing. We're up to pentagon number 8 here. That, it's amazing to think of that before these 12 pentagons came along, there were really only 4 methods. And if I didn't contribute to this at all, there would be about 3 that I know of methods to construct a perfect pentagon. There are probably more out there. But, it's totally incredible to me what this pattern was able to, is able to do. And it's not only able to draw these flat pentagons, it can do all these angled pentagons and all these other forms too. So this diagram is just such a huge upgrade by adding phi ratio to the seed of life circles that it just opens up such a window of opportunity to take sacred geometry to a whole new level. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. We're going to use these intersection points here and extend your lines over through that connection point of these 2 circles and that tip point right there, which I didn't put in the, or at this center point. Extend that up, you'll get that spot. Extend that up, you get that spot. And then you just extend your line from here through that same spot, and that will give you that spot, and that will give you the tip, same spot up there. So that one is really more line heavy to get that one. but still is in there. This one is quite cool looking. I really love the way I picked up the back corners of the pentagon here by using this outer edge of the golden circle, extending all the way down, nipping the spot for the corner there, and extending all the way down back over to here. This one is if you extend this line from that point over here on the outer golden circles through here is going to meet that line that you would draw there, and that's where you draw your back edge. So you have these 4 long lines, and this one is actually part of the pentagon edge, and that one is right there meeting already at the circle. It's fascinating how these can be found. I really love this one too, like a little crow foot or something like that in there, bird track. We've got these 3 very close lines that, including the central one, which has to give you the central axis, and this one's connected to the points of these 2 circles here, the inner edge of that one and that one, straight through the middle, extend those lines from this point where this circles meet up to that little section there, and that gave me another pentagon. Very, very neat. This one, of course, I love the line patterns just themselves. They look so neat. And we'll extend the lines down through here. You know, just study this one. I don't remember exactly. You could see where the connection points are, extending all the way down and giving you those points there on the line and those points there on the line. It's actually the base of it is between that little section and that little section at the base of the Penrose tile where those two petals overlap. Okay, so that's a lot of information. Well, geez, I guess I have one more for you. This one looks easy to do. You know, connect the dots basically. There it is. The pentagon is at the bottom of this petal. It starts there. It's connected between these 2 circles on either side. Just send a line through there until it hits this edge of the circle right there. And that gives you another one. And those are the 12 pentagons that were in there. All right, so lots of interesting possibilities and drawing techniques. I'd really be curious if anybody actually tries to draw any of these and give them a shot. I'm going to do myself, I'm going to start doing the hand drawings of these just because I find them to be really fascinating. And I would really like to see how they can be, you know, develop some sort of radial symmetry and send this pentagon all around. I imagine it'd be quite an interesting design. Well, here's one that I want to revisit right from back at the beginning of the video. I mentioned the as above, so below drawing, the first pentagon, actually the second pentagon that I constructed on my own volition through these techniques. But I really love this one because of the circle interactions. And it turned out to be part of the golden circle's seed of life. It's a part of the seed of life structure. It's just the next bigger phi ratio circle out. But what it did is actually created the same hexagon pentagon union. It's the same pentagon as before. It's just done now without having to use the lines to get the pentagons, but all of them together go around to create the bases, to create the hexagon. And the red lines that are all on the inside are the pentagons that are going to the inside of the drawing because the same vertices that are on the outside are on the inside. So as above, as below, as without, as within. We've got all the mixture all within there. So, and that led to, you know, a new version of the golden seed of life, golden circle seed of life that has 28 circles. The original version, I think it's going to probably be easier to use with the 21 circle because some of these circles overlap, but this is the one that will draw this previous drawing that you don't even need the golden circle seed of life, the middle ones. But to my, you know, amazingly, it was already contained back in the mother of all forms drawing here. Was already in there so that I was waiting to be birthed basically, but I had to do it in 6-fold symmetry and send that around. And now this creates more of a complete pattern of the 28 circles and birthing a new pattern with all these geometric forms that can be in here, as well as the pentagons in their flat perspective or angled perspectives. So, okay, that was it. That was all I wanted to share. I've been working on this video for a little bit. I hope you found that really fascinating. I would love to hear how that drawing goes. If you're new to drawing sacred geometry and that seems like just so much to take in, I have the Patreon set up where I'm working people through drawing the first pentagon you saw there. I've got that drawing video online here, the YouTube video on the as above, so below drawing. So give that a look. It's some of my earlier methods of how I was teaching there, but very doable, easy drawing. And I have my apprenticeship coming up soon. That's September 5th of 2022 here. So check that out. I'm really thrilled to share some few of these Pentagon drawings and maybe do some cooler collages of them. So thank you very much. Check out the New Geometers Facebook group and also subscribe to the channel. And I look forward to doing future videos for you. All right, peace and love. Bye.